The smile from your lips brings the summer sunshine. The tears from your eyes bring the rain. I feel your touch, your warm embrace, and I'm in heaven again. You are my special angel through eternity. I have had my special angel here to watch over me. A smile from your lips brings the summer sunshine. The tears from your eyes bring the rain. I feel your touch, your warm embrace, and I'm in heaven again. You are my special angel through eternity. I have had my special angel here to watch over me. To watch over me.
Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for joining us here and by webcam today as we honor and celebrate the life of James Eric Houseman, better known as Jim to most of us. I would also like to thank Charlotte for coming forward today to lighting the memorial candle before the start of our service. Only a few times in your life will you meet someone that will have a lasting impression on you. For me, Jim Houseman was one of those people. I was searching for a word that would best describe Jim, and I thought of words such as compassionate, funny, friendly, smart, loyal, handsome, that was Jim's word, and kind. And while Jim was all of those, a doctor in the palliative care unit summed it up best. She came in looking at his chart and she looked down at Jim. She says, "Jim, you're a unique case." Unique, that's Jim. Why? Well, Jim was born on a day that only comes around every 4 years. He had a very strong work ethic. He had his no-knot tie knot, which I am wearing right now. His humor, one-liners, loyalty to his family, friends, and employers, all second to none. As I look around the chapel, I see a lot of familiar faces. But for those who don't know me, I'm Tony Slavin. I was Jim's colleague, one-time employer, but more importantly, Jim's friend. Today you also hear from some other good friends, Dan Devlin and Aaron Morrison. When Jim was told at the cancer clinic that there was nothing more they could do for him, rather than using those words to give me the news, he said, "Well, Tony, it's time for you to get a new suit." Got a new suit. Jim asked myself and Aaron to come to his bedside at the Burnaby Hospital to give us a few requests about his services today. One, that 3 of us officiate. 2, that 3 specific songs be played, which you will hear today. 3, that he be cremated after his service and placed in his father's grave in Saskatoon. And 4, most importantly, that my goddamn service not be too long. So in keeping with that, we will not be having an open mic, but we'll certainly be able to go upstairs afterwards for the reception and share our Jim stories. Jim was born February 29th, 1944 in the booming metropolis of Central Butte, Saskatchewan, to Werner and Margaret Houseman. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing Jim was probably the first born that day. In fact, in Central Butte, I'm thinking he was the first born that week, that month, and probably even the bloody year. You see, the population in Central Butte in 2021 was 416, and likely a few less back in 1944. Growing up, Jim recalled that sports were the main event in a prairie town, including baseball, football, and hockey. His teen work mostly included his grandpa's farm, picking rocks, driving tractor, cultivating and harrowing, driving truck during seeding and harvest, and swathing and combining. Honestly, as a city boy, I don't know what any of that means, but it sounded important. Later, he would unload coal cars and shovel grain at the elevators during the winter and work in building and construction during the summer. He played hockey in Saskatchewan's Senior Hockey League. In 1967 and 68, he was coached by Dave King, who would later go on to coach the Canadian Olympic team and the Calgary Flames and the Columbus Blue Jackets. While working a summer job in August of 1963, he was notified that his father passed away suddenly. His aunts convinced him to complete high school the following year, which was a wise choice as he would need his high school education to pursue his career in funeral service. His funeral service career began when he worked for the Park Funeral Chapel in Saskatoon, receiving his diploma in 1969. After that, he spent 2 years with the Saskatoon Funeral Home before coming west in 1971 to join Sands Funeral Chapel in Victoria. This is where he would meet Anne, his future bride, a nursing graduate from the Calgary General Hospital. In 1972, Jim would again move to Vancouver, and he joined Ernie Harbert at the Hamilton Mortuary on Fraser Street. In 1982, Hamilton's was sold to the Loan Group, but Jim would continue working there as manager until 2005. After 33 years at Hamilton's, Jim would join me as manager of the Bell Funeral Chapel on Hastings Street in Vancouver up by the P&E, later moving into this building when we amalgamated the two companies. As many of the families we served were Italian Catholic, a few of the priests would say Jim was the very best non-Catholic Catholic they knew. He was in church more than most of their parishioners. He was kind of an honorary Catholic, I guess. He had a deep respect for the faith and the clergy. However, he never really mastered the Italian language. I think the word spaghetti was about as far as he got. Jim served on the board of directors at the BC Funeral Association and would move through the chairs, becoming president for a 2-year term from 1997 to 1999. Jim had a magnificent work ethic and a manager in his words. In his words, I would never ask an employee to do anything that I would not personally do. He believed that managing people is like a chain, and chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Jim would say in funeral service, we are people helping others. And that is what Jim would do. Compassion, empathy, loyalty, and professionalism would be Jim's calling card during his funeral service career. Jim would make many friends in our profession, and many are here today. Jim's office here at Bell and Burnaby was right about the chapel here, just to the back. And you always knew Jim was in the building because you'd hear the rat-a-tat-tat of his typewriter. As typewriters became more and more obsolete, Jim kept a spare one just in case that one broke down. He never really adapted much to technology. In fact, he fought it tooth and nail. In 50 years that Jim was in funeral service, I estimate he personally served about 4,000 families, and he would assist many more than that with his staff. I can honestly say Jim served every family with the utmost kindness and professionalism, always going the extra mile. Jim and Ann were blessed with a son, Ryan, in 1979, and in 2015, Jim was again blessed with a special angel granddaughter, Charlotte. Jim is also survived by cousins Ed Allen, Gord and Karen Houseman, Brad and Bev Carlin, Stephanie Chartier, his aunts Marlene Howard and Donna Carlin and their families. Although in Jim's words, he would never move back to Saskatchewan, he always had fond memories of it there. He would travel back to Saskatchewan for many years during the summer months. Jim helped coach Ryan's baseball team. One of Ryan's teammates described Jim as tough but always fair. Jim thought of Ryan as his best friend, buddy, and a relationship you can't buy. Charlotte became a special angel who he loved with all of his heart. A couple of Jim's favorite phrases were, I don't want yes folks around me. I want everyone to tell the truth, even if it costs them their job. And sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission. That one bit me in the ass a few times. Jim was an avid sports fan, as you can see by some of the memorabilia we have displayed today, following the Canucks, Blue Jays, and of course the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He was a bit of a clairvoyant when it came to sports because he told me a long time ago that the Canucks will never win a Stanley Cup in his lifetime. However, I have high hopes for those Roughriders and Blue Jays this year, Jim. The weekend Jim passed, the Roughriders beat the Lions and the Blue Jays beat the Giants and the Yankees, Jim's favorite second team. Jim attended some of the local Canadians baseball games with friend Ross Armstrong. When it came to food, everything had to be well done. From steak, hamburgers, pizza, fries, onion rings, bacon, it didn't seem to matter. It all had to be well done. It had to be, and in Jim's words, it had to be as close as you can get before it becomes cremated. This time I'm going to ask Aaron to come forward and share some memories.
Well, thank you for everyone being here, supporting the Houseman family. Thank you, Tony, Dan, for organizing this beautiful service for Jim. As Jim would often say, he was not one for pomp and circumstance. We all knew what he thought about accolades and what you could do with accolades. I'm going to share some of the anecdotal thoughts of Mr. Houseman. I met Jim, my first meeting with Jim was May 1st, 1989. Another special day for Jim, for anybody who knew what kind of outdoor activities could be partaken on the 1st of May. I came into the funeral home at Hamilton's, green, not knowing anything about funeral service. I was eager, I wanted to learn. I came in, I said, "What do you want me to do, Jim?" And he says, "Well, you're going to do everything I tell you to do." And so I proceeded to wash all the cars. I saw this garment bag sitting there, and I grabbed up the garment bag, and I'm going, "Oh, I'm going to tidy this up." And he goes, "What are you doing with that?" He says, that's a loved one's clothing. You put that down. That's to be treated with respect and dignity." And I said, "Oh, yes, Mr. Houseman." So that was something that I learned very early on, is that, one thing that he told me very early on, you have to learn to crawl before you learn to walk, before you run. And take things in stride, take your time. If it's worth doing right, take your time. That's one thing that Jim instilled. Some other wonderful anecdotes that he had. If it was raining today, he said, "If the rain keeps up, it won't come down." And I think he would be very thankful that there wasn't a sky pilot leading the service. Now Jim had an affinity with people, as Tony mentioned. He was a relationship person. Jim could meet people and gain their trust. It's when you're a trustworthy person, you're a good, honest person, you gain people's trust. Jim had these relationships with these priests, many of them Catholic, and they see Jim coming and they'd be like, "Oh, good, here comes Mr. Houseman. We know that this family is in good hands," right? There's some funny stories. I have a particular story, was when we were with Alderwoods. Jim was not one to, he enjoyed working in a corporate world, but he was a relationship person, so the family was number one, not paperwork, not bean counters. We were at a meeting in Burnaby. I'll never forget this as long as I live. We're sitting around a manager's table. Someone was brought in from back east to do a presentation on the shifting changes of funeral service. And one of Jim's saying was, "You have a wheel. How many times can you reinvent a wheel? It's a wheel." So we're sitting at the table. This gentleman comes in, very well put together, back east. He goes, "I'm going to tell you folks, that there is a paradigm shift in funeral service, and you are going to understand. Jim, without skipping a beat, reaches in his pockets. I don't know how he had 2 dimes in his pockets. He goes, "Oh, you want to see a pair of dimes?" He throws them on the table. The faces around the table, especially the general manager, looking at Jim with that glare. And Jim, without skipping a beat, "Well, there's your pair of dimes." The fellow didn't know what to say, but he knew that, he wasn't going to mess with Jim Houseman. There were many great memories. Growing up, I basically grew up with Ryan. We had so many awesome times going to sporting events. Sometimes there could be some colorful language in the stands with Jim, and that was fine. That was Jim. You knew who you got with Jim, right? There was no BSing. He was a good man. He was a good, honest man. I don't want to stand up here too long. People who knew Jim knew who he was, but he was known as the candy man. He always had a candy in his pocket. He would give them to a widow. He would give them to a lady in church. He'd often give them to the priest, but Werther's were his favorite. And I kind of liken Jim to a Werther's candy. It's tough on the outside. When you first meet him, it's a little tough. But when you get to know him, it's sweet. Thank you.
I'd just like to read out a little something that Ryan had written about his dad for him. "My dad was the most generous, loving, and hilarious dad you could ever ask for. His love for sports was unmatched. I have so many great memories of us going to many live sporting events. He took me to baseball, hockey, soccer, football, WWF, to watch my favorite wrestler, Hulk Hogan. Rest in peace, brother. I remember Dad taking me down to the front row as Hogan was making his entrance so I could hopefully get a high five from him. Sure enough, I did. I didn't wash my hand for a week. The countless games we went to at the Kingdom to watch the Mariners and my all-time favorite player, Ken Griffey Jr., watching the Canucks when they were really bad. Seeing Wayne Gretzky absolutely torch the Canucks for at least 5 points in every game I was at. My dad saved me from getting hit in the head with a puck in one of those games before they put up the nets that they have now. In 1994, the Canucks made the epic Stanley Cup run. My dad got us tickets to every home game. I was watching an old broadcast on the NHL network, and sure enough, you can see us right behind the bench. My dad loved life, loved being at all sporting events. That's the reason I love sports now. I owe that all to him. His real passion, though, was watching me play sports. He got me into playing t-ball when I was 4. He lied about my age so I could play. I remember hitting my first home run at age 4 and him being so proud. That continued all the way through my life at different levels that I played at. My dad usually coached me and loved doing it. He was always so generous with all the kids, buying us Slurpees after the practice. When I got older, my dad absolutely loved coming on our road trips. He always volunteered to drive the van. He just loved hanging out and being one of the guys. He told me years later how much that meant to him. I was very proud to be able to give him that when he put so much time and effort into my sporting life. I have so many stories I could share. Most are probably not appropriate at this time. So you can always ask me later. That's Ryan. I'll miss those daily phone calls. My dad would always say, "Hey, buddy, how's it going? Do you need anything?" He always wanted to make sure I was good, and usually I was just fine. My dad is a one-of-a-kind beauty that broke the mold when he was made. He was often imitated, but never duplicated. Love you, Dad. Thanks, Ryan. At this time, we're going to have a bit of a slideshow of Jim's life, about a 9-minute show, so please just sit and enjoy. It will be replayed in the reception room afterwards, but please enjoy at least the photos today.
Well, probably some of you are wondering, when's the minister going to get up? You know what Jim's term for minister was? Aaron's mentioned it. If you were arranging a funeral, he'd say, "Who's the sky pilot?" I don't know where he got that term from. If he dreamed it up or if he got it from one of his renegade Saskatchewan buddies, I don't know. Anyway, there is no sky pilot today. Only Jim Houseman could dream up something like this: a Roman Catholic, Tony, a former Masonic chaplain, Aaron, and a former Baptist deacon, Devlin. So this is what you get today. But just before we do conclude and see Jim on his way, I just thought we should share a couple of scriptures. It won't be long, but I think it's important that we do that. First one is in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. And there it says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. Time to plant, and a time to uproot. Time to kill, and a time to heal. Time to tear down, and a time to build. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance." So today we're mourning, but we've had many good times with Jim as well, as you've heard all the stories today. If you knew Jim, you knew you were going to have a very, very good laugh somewhere along the line. So let's just move into the very familiar words of the 23rd Psalm. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters, and he restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." So just to conclude with a few words of committal. For as much as our good friend Jim Houseman has passed from this life to that which lies beyond, we therefore commit his mortal body to the elements, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the family, I'd like to thank everyone so much for being here and taking part in the services. In just a moment, as we exit the chapel, we're going to begin ushering you from the back forward through into our concourse area. The family is going to take a moment privately. At the conclusion of that, the traditional carry out and farewell to Jim will happen in the concourse area as we're listening to Perry Como's "My Way." And I've been asked to also extend an invitation for everyone to join and continue the celebration upstairs, where you have an opportunity to share memories and support each other. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
stand by, please, gentlemen?